Why so many apprentices are quitting in 2026. The trades are crying out for workers. So why are so many apprentices quitting? Every week, I hear the same thing. Another apprentice has left. They didn't finish their first year. They quit and got a warehouse job. As someone who's worked in Hvac for the last 4 years here in Victoria, I've seen it happen more times than I can count. And here's the thing. Most people think apprentices are quitting because they don't want to work. I don't think that's the real reason. Today, we're going to talk about what's actually happening in the trades in 2026, why so many apprentices are walking away, and what the industry needs to do before we end up with an even bigger skills shortage. Let's get into it. The reality versus the dream. A lot of young people leave school thinking a trade is going to be awesome. They picture themselves driving around in a company ute, installing brand new air conditioners, using expensive tools, making good money, being outside instead of sitting in an office, and eventually running their own business. Sounds great, right? Then reality hits. Instead of installing shiny new systems, they're carrying condensers up flights of stairs, sweeping the workshop, spending hours in roof spaces that feel like an oven, working in the rain, cleaning filthy evaporators, and getting home completely exhausted. Nobody really talks about this side of the trade before someone signs up. And for some apprentices, that shock alone is enough to make them leave. The biggest problem, money. Let's be honest, everything costs more in 2026. Fuel, rent, food, insurance, car repayments, phone bills, tools. Now imagine you're a first-year apprentice. You're expected to own a reliable car because public transport usually isn't an option. You're buying hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars worth of tools. You're driving all over the place, but your pay barely covers your weekly expenses. Then your mate tells you they're making significantly more money working in a warehouse with overtime. No roof spaces, no call-outs, no crawling under houses, no carrying heavy equipment. You start asking yourself, why am I doing this? That's a question more apprentices are asking every year. Poor mentors are driving apprentices away. Now, before anyone gets offended, not every tradesperson is like this. I've worked with some incredible technicians who genuinely wanted to teach, but I've also seen apprentices treated like they exist purely to carry tools and clean up. Some apprentices spend months, sometimes years, without learning much at all. They're never shown how to diagnose faults. They're never taught why something works. They don't get encouraged to ask questions. Instead, they hear things like, you should already know. Figure it out. Stop asking. Here's the truth. Every experienced tradie was once the apprentice who knew absolutely nothing. Nobody is born knowing refrigeration cycles or electrical diagnostics. Teaching isn't a favor. It's part of keeping the trade alive. Social media has changed expectations. There's another reason people don't really talk about social media. Every time someone opens TikTok or Instagram, they're seeing people claiming they're making thousands of dollars every week from home, trading crypto, selling online, creating content, running businesses. Whether those videos are real or fake doesn't matter, because perception becomes reality when you're sweating inside a roof space while someone online claims they made a week's wage before lunch. It makes people question whether they're making the right career choice. Mental burnout is real. People think trades are only physically hard. They're not. They're mentally exhausting too. As an apprentice, you're constantly worried about making mistakes. You're working with electricity, refrigerant, expensive equipment. Customers are watching. Your boss expects results. You're trying to remember everything you've learned at TAFE. And after a 10-hour day, you've still got assignments waiting at home. That pressure builds up. Some people push through it. Others simply burn out. And honestly, there's no shame in admitting it's tough. The companies that get it right. Now, I don't want this video to sound like every company out there is terrible, because that's simply not true. Some companies do apprenticeships properly. They actually invest in their apprentices. They don't just throw them in the deep end and hope for the best. They'll explain why a system works the way it does. They'll let an apprentice diagnose the fault before stepping in. They'll make mistakes into learning opportunities instead of reasons to yell. And guess what? Those apprentices usually become confident technicians much faster. Confidence doesn't come from never making mistakes. Confidence comes from having someone explain what went wrong and how to fix it. I've worked with people like that, and they made a huge difference to how I learnt. But unfortunately, not everyone gets that experience. Some apprentices spend 4 years just being the bloke who carries ladders. That's not an apprenticeship. That's cheap labour. The cost of becoming a tradie. Another thing people outside the industry don't understand is how expensive it is just to become qualified. You don't just wake up one day and suddenly become a technician. Every year, you're buying more tools. Better screwdrivers, socket sets, power tools, meters, drill bits, safety gear, maybe a new pair of boots because you've worn the last pair out. Then you've got fuel. Sometimes you're driving hundreds of kilometers every week. You have TAFE costs, license fees, work clothes, insurance, and all of that comes out of an apprentice's wage. People look at a qualified tradie and think they're earning good money. What they don't see is the years of investment it took to get there, thousands of dollars, thousands of hours, and a lot of sacrifices. Why I stayed. People ask me all the time, why didn't you quit? Because, trust me, there were days where I questioned it, days where I was exhausted, days where nothing seemed to go right, days where I thought maybe I'd chosen the wrong career. But something changed. Jobs that used to take me 4 hours suddenly took 1. Faults that seemed impossible started making sense. I stopped needing someone to check every decision I made. Customers started asking for me by name. That's when you realize you're no longer just an apprentice. You're becoming a technician. And honestly, that's one of the best feelings in this trade because you've earned it. Nobody handed it to you. The future of the tradie. Here's what worries me. Australia already has a shortage of skilled tradies. Now, imagine what happens if half the apprentices who start never finish. Who's going to install all the new heat pumps? Who's going to maintain supermarkets? Who's going to repair hospital cooling systems? Who's going to keep data centers operating? Who's going to service the air conditioners in schools, offices, and homes? People don't think about HVAC until it's 40 degrees outside and their air conditioner stops working. Suddenly, the trade becomes one of the most important jobs in the country. That's why apprentices matter. They're not just filling a position today, they're the people who will be keeping Australia running 10 or 20 years from now. If we don't invest in them, we'll all feel the consequences. Outro, 11, 40, 13. So, are apprentices quitting because they're lazy? I don't believe that. I think many are quitting because the reality of the trade doesn't match what they were promised. Low wages while learning, high living costs, expensive tools, long days, pressure, and in some cases, workplaces that forget an apprentice is there to learn. But despite all that, I still believe learning a trade is one of the best decisions you can make. The skills you gain can't be taken away from you. You can work almost anywhere. You can specialize, you can travel, you can start your own business, and if you're willing to put in the work, it can give you an incredible career. If you're an apprentice watching this, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't compare your first year to someone else's 10th. Everyone starts somewhere. And if you're a qualified tradie watching this, remember what it felt like when you were new. Take 5 minutes to explain something. Teach instead of criticize. Because one day, that apprentice could be the person training the next generation. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're an apprentice, what's been the hardest part of your apprenticeship? If you're a qualified tradie, what advice would you give someone who's just starting out? I've got plenty more videos coming where I'll be talking about the things nobody else tells you about working in the trades. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe on the tools, look after your mates, and I'll catch you in the next one.